You alright, guys? Good evening. It's another episode of a rant that I'll continue to go on because I hate the world and I hate everything and I hate the internet. But I've just cracked open a cold one. Gonna have a little chat with you guys, kind of talk about a few things. I wanted to talk about mainly like programming stuff today. I get a bit geeky about it. I kind of have a fascination with programming. Not so much spreadsheets, but the actual designing and building of someone's program and kind of its requirements, what it takes to make a good program. So, what makes a good program? Like, what is it in a program that actually makes it good or bad? So, if you show me a program that I don't know, it'd be a push pull legs. Now, I've had people buy a push pull program, right? Push pull legs, and I've seen it, and it's like it's shit. And it's not for the reasons that you think, but it's kind of like the lack of substance in that program. So I could write you out a push pull legs program in about 5 minutes, and it'd be all right. It's not so much the lifts and the exercises I'm looking for, because they're important. That's like the main thing in the program, is literally what you're lifting. And there can be things you look at and you're like, well, that's a bit funky, but that's not really the priority when I'm like looking at someone's program, kind of critiquing what they've written out. What I'm mainly looking for is the things that support it. So what is your progression? What is the progression module? So it doesn't have to be anything fancy and like 5 pages of fucking progression notes in a booklet, but it's just a simple. If you're just giving out a push-pull legs program, then it has to include at least a module that you can follow in order to progress. So, progressing and progressive overload isn't just as simple as add 2.5 kilo, add 2.5 kilo, add 2.5 kilo, stop. Like, do you know what I mean? There's some methods have to be utilized at certain times. You hit plateaus. You have to use certain methods in order to break those. It's just a bit more. There's a bit more to it. So having a good little page, just kind of telling you how to progress on this program. Are you going to be adding an extra set every week? Is it going to be adding an extra rep every week? Is it going to be like kind of where are you going with this? You've got lifts, right? You've got workout, 1, 2, 3, and then you repeat that, right? You've got your lifts, you've got the same reps, you've got the same weight. So how are you going to progress? And also, it's all well and good to say, oh, just progress how you feel is necessary, but you'll start kind of trading. If you leave like novices to kind of make their own decisions, you'll often find like the weight will start creeping up, but the reps come down, and they're kind of like following a linear periodization, except none of it's planned. None of it actually goes how they want it to, because it's just off the cuff and it's kind of like how they feel. That's more what's called cybernetic programming. It's a fancy term, but it's pretty much just self-regulating. And in novices, you don't really allow them to self-regulate, because it actually leads to underperforming, not performing enough for a certain task. So just having a simple model in place, saying like, right, progress. Like, starting strength was 2.5 kilos each and every session. The moment you fail, move on with your workout, and in the next session, you're going to decrease the weight by 10%, rounded to its nearest plate. Downwards. So if it's like a 96 kilo, you just do 95. And that was a progression model, because it only lasts 6 months, but it's in there. That is how you progress on this program, and you carry on. Secondly, if I'm looking at a program, is there any availability to swap exercises out? For example, if you have an injury and you're not able to do, I don't know, squats, what are you going to replace leg work with? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, if the program is just literally these lifts, you can't change them. There's nothing you can do about it. If anything goes wrong or you're unable to do any of that, the program as a whole suffers and it just stops working. And then at that point, you pretty much got to write your own program. So it's a waste of time buying this program anyway. Or do you know what I mean? Get yourself a fucking massive list of exercises that you enjoy and are tried and tested, right? Get ones for push, pull, legs, hinges, twists, abs, cardio. Just get a bunch of exercises for each of them so that you can interchange them. Bear in mind, right, you can't be doing like tricep extensions on a rope for more than 3 weeks. You need to start flushing things out. You can't just bang the same exercises out for eight weeks. It doesn't work. You need to be changing your accessories out at least every 4 weeks. Doesn't have to be that you don't train your triceps, but just need to change the movement. So having a big exercise selection is a massive plus. I had a client, Cameron, so he had motorcycle injury and he had a huge cut over the front of his knee, and obviously by squatting he'd be literally tearing open the scab every time he squats. So we had to take squats out and we had to work around it. He was able to do hip hinges. So obviously we was able to adapt his program to be more inclined towards hip hinges and working on his posterior chain rather than flexion and extension of the knee. Okay, so if there's nothing in there that can help you with that, that's what I'd also call shit, because you're going to run it for 8 to 12 weeks and your progress is going to dry quite quickly, unless you have come straight off the streets and you're a newbie, but then that's a different story altogether. Thirdly is deload. Okay, what happens when you hit a wall? So you've been training for, let's say, 6-7 weeks, right? You've pretty much peaked at that point. Most, even like novices, after like 7 weeks, are going to hit like a bit of a wall, and the body will eventually want to have to take a break. What is your go-to protocol when you deload? So some programs will be just minus 10% off the weights and go up, like starting strength. Some may be cut the volume back but keep the intensity. So you'll still be working at the same weights and practicing, but the volume's going to be far greater, or less, sorry. There's some where the weight goes down but the volume stays the same. But just you need that in place. You know, you have to know in a scenario, what are you going to do if you fail that weight? Because you can't just wing it, because then the program just falls apart. Next is injury prevention work. So I'm not a physiotherapist, and if you was to break your knee, go to a fucking doctor. You know, like, that's just common sense. But if, you know, we can prevent that from happening, the better. We can prevent, you know, tears and pulls and, you know, stuff like that, the better. You know, I don't want to, you can't, a good training program is great until you can't train it. So if you blow your back out, the program's almost done. You can't carry on. So the program's now not going to do its intended effect. A good program is one that you can do for a long time and you can repeat, and there's ways around it. It's adaptable. So preventing injury is like one of the most forefront entities of a good program. You need an injury prevention kind of model that you can go to in the event of any nicks, pains, aches, or any kind of injury. Like, what will you do? And also what's specific to you. So I'm not just going to talk about powerlifting here. So let's say you're a boxer, you're very liable to having shoulders rounding, wrist injuries, shoulder injuries, elbow injuries. If you get into a ring, neck injuries. What are you going to do to prevent that from happening? So a lot of boxers do like neck bridges, stuff like that, like to support and to strengthen their neck. I've currently got one of my clients, Jules, who I've got for 8 weeks. We're doing a lot of rear fly work, lots of it, because he's such in an anterior position all the time. He's always forward and is hunched forward because of punching constantly, and obviously doing upper body work that he needs to have that balance in his shoulders, needs to be doing health, like shoulder mobility, needs to be stretching. And that's kind of like the risks you have to assess with yourself. So what are you liable to? Have you had a lower back injury in the last 3 years? I have. So I have to make sure that I do hyperextensions at least 3 times a week to sustain lower back health. Otherwise, it will start to really hurt. It's just simple things. Like just look at yourself and what you've been through. Are you liable to injuries in your wrist or shoulders from bench pressing? What helps with that? And have that incorporated in your work, in your like warm-ups, or at the end of your workouts. And trust me, it makes the biggest fucking difference in the world. Lastly, just thinking if I've got any more. But no, actually, no, I don't think I have. But yeah, there's a few things in programs that I think are too bare. If you're going to write yourself a program, make sure that you have those things to support the program. The program only works for as long as you can carry it on for. If you've constantly got to change it, then it's not really a program, like a singular program, is it? It's one that you've had to adapt every 3 fucking weeks. Get a system that works. I like to do training in 4 weeks, like a 4-week block. I'll utilize like a concurrent method, so you'll be training multiple things at once. So if you got one, right, you do not have to, right? Hypertrophy is what I use as my example. You do not have to do specifically just 3 sets of 12 on every single lift that you do during a hypertrophy block. It's just unnecessary. The goal of the cycle in the 4 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks, or however long this season is on for. So if you're like a power lifter, pretty much winter in general is the muscle building phase. It doesn't have to be purely 3 sets of 12 on everything you do, and it has to be super high volumes. Like, you can still build muscle in higher percentages of weight. It's about tonnage and the percent, like your workload in like relative to that. So as long as you're working above 60%, you can still be doing stuff like strength endurance, which is like, I don't know, 6 sets of 3, or kind of like methods where you can use like 24 reps total kind of thing. You can manipulate that like fucking crazy. You can do high weight with low, high sets, high weight, but low reps, which is really good. You're still getting in crazy volume, and weight. So, you don't have to do like, okay, it's 3, so do 3 sets of 8, or, fucking hell, I forgot now. But a friend of mine sent me one the other day as a module for it. But yeah, you can manipulate it like crazy. You can still do like high reps with like high weight, just, or you can do vice versa, high sets, low reps, high weight. Like, it still has the same intended goal, but do you know what it is? It keeps you in the loop of lifting heavy. You need to be doing speed work as well. You also have muscular endurance work, which is just repetition method. Like, you don't have to be just reps. And also, not only that, but it leads to like overuse injuries. If you're constantly doing the same lifts for lots of volume, you will run into like overuse injuries, which aren't like, snap your chest off, but they nags in your shoulders, in your elbows, just kind of like aching pains all the time. So it's really good to keep switching that up. So for example, if you do push pull legs 6 days, half of that, like the first half of the week is like a more like higher reps kind of base training, and the other one might be like strength endurance training or power training. The focus is still hypertrophy, and you can still manipulate that to get more workload done, but you don't really necessarily want to do just muscle building 6 days a week at all, and it's not necessary either. So anyway, who put 50p in me, eh? So that's the end of my rant. But yeah, those are the kind of things that I'd look for if I was to look at someone's program and kind of assess if I believe that that's a good program or not. If you like more of this content, then please subscribe. I'm a small YouTuber, obviously, and I'm trying to make my way into this scene. I'm trying to just kind of like be honest and be a bit more like myself. I don't have scripts. I kind of just like wing it. So I want to try and keep it as authentic as possible between me and you guys, and so you guys get to like know me as well as a person, you know. So whoever I am behind your fucking screen is the same person you'd see in the gym or wherever you might bump into me, wherever that might be on this planet. I like to keep an honest picture. So anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. That would absolutely mean the fucking world to me. So anyway, enjoy your evening, guys. See you later.